Well, a warm welcome to everybody online, to our speakers we have today who we've partnered with, to those of you who are joining in from any of the platforms where you have access to this webinar. My name is Happy Ngumakhumalo Ngidi. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Proudly South African, and I am facilitating this webinar this morning. Thank you so much for your time, for indulging us, for joining us, and for heeding our call and responding positively to an invitation from Team Proudly South African to join the webinar. Today, we're talking about standing out and selling out your product. Ensuring that whatever you do, your product stands out on shelves, in the public domain, in retail stores, online platforms, whichever platform you use to sell your product. That as a product owner, as a business owner, you don't take it for granted and think that everybody must just buy your product without you putting a bit of work behind your product. With that said, please allow me to also just welcome our speakers this morning to the platform. We are joined by Ronelle Kerr, who's Brain Design Manager for Beverages PepsiCo. We are also welcome, ma'am. We are also joined by Francois de Villiers, who's Creative Director. And we are also joined by Zood Lade, who's Head of Marketing at Switch Drinks. Last but not least, we are joined by a member company of ours as well, represented by Tato Musikave, a founder of Nala Media, who will be telling us the story of his business. I encourage those of you who are online to send your questions on the chat box, and I'll try and be on the lookout for that on social media platforms, which is Twitter and Facebook. We will look out for your questions if you ask your questions on those platforms, and we'll make sure that we find a bit of time to tackle them. Without further ado, I just want to give an overview about what we do at Proudly South African. The assumption that we don't assume a lot of the times that people who may be engaging us for the first time on a platform such as this know what we do. We are the official advocacy campaign in South Africa, with the domestic mandated to promote local procurement and promote products and services that are locally manufactured in South Africa, and giving preference to that and asking and reminding South Africans, and at least pleading with them to make their purchasing decisions in favor of local products. It's about that. There's a lot we do as Proudly South African. We work within the designated sectors, 26 of them. We work with different industries, with the private sector, public sector, and consumers. Our work is broad, but I think in the main we always driven by caring for businesses, for small businesses, to ensure that they operate and they, you know, generate revenue, they remain relevant, they create jobs, they sustain jobs that they currently have, and they have access to market opportunities. It's one thing for somebody to own a great brand or a product or a service, but if they don't have a market to sell all of that to, it defeats the purpose. So, in a nutshell, that's what we do at Proudly South African. You're most welcome to engage with us on our website to just get exposed to many other things that we do and why we exist. All right, in the interest of time and without any further ado, we'll get straight into it. We're going to be unpacking the power of storytelling today, showing you how to confidently share the journey behind your product and to create meaningful emotional connections with the customers. That is absolutely critical. That if you're ready to stand out, build credibility, and turn browsers into buyers, then this webinar is most definitely yours. It gives me great pleasure now to invite onto the platform Ronelle Kerr, who's brand design manager for beverages for PepsiCo. And she will be looking into the topic around big brand thinking for small business shelves. Ronelle, a warm welcome to you this morning. We look forward to hearing from you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me, having me on the webinar today. It's really a privilege to be here. I am going to do the $1,000,000 question where we always have to share our screen. And I just want to make sure that my screen does kind of, so just give me 1 second. Perfect. Please let me know if everyone can see my screen, though I can't see anyone now.
Yes, we can see your screen, Ronelle.
Okay, perfect stuff. Perfect. Thank you for that. So, as I mentioned, I have over 14 years experience in branding. I've had the privilege of working and leading different brand designs from NPN to F&B to standard branding to FMCG products such as Reds and Cosmetics out in Albany, which is just a handful of some of the products that I've had the privilege of working on. And in the last year and a half, I joined PepsiCo, where I lead up the brand design for the beverage category. And this is for both our local and international brands. So from Liquid Fruit Series, Fruitry, to our international brands in our local markets, Pepsi, Mirinda, 7up, and Everbears, in both our South African and Sub-Saharan categories. So I'm not sure how many people are familiar, but PepsiCo acquired Pioneer Foods 5 years ago. And as we know, Pioneer Foods has a handful of our local presentations. I'm sorry, not presentations, products and stables in. So, we have Bacomo, we have Sasco, we have Safari, we have our beloved Simba within our portfolio, and it's such a privilege to be able to work on some of these brands and driving it from the design, from an element where we have that opportunity to be on shelves. But, as we know, customers don't buy the product, they buy what it signals. There are multiple signals that people look into. Is it quality? Is it familiarity? Is there a point of clarity that we have? Does your product give a sense of clarity that maybe another brand doesn't give? Or, is it a heritage brand that allows you to have trust within the brand? And that's the brand that you always go back to. Whether it's from your parents that you used to buy a specific brand and now you're continuously buying brand, that trust is built over years. So there's multiple signals that at the end of the day that influences your product alone. So when you walk in an aisle, any consumer, me, you, anyone, there's multiple questions that we subconsciously ask ourselves. First of all, there's a curiosity around what is this? Is this a product for me? Is it something that I would like or enjoy? Is it something that I can trust? You don't want to buy a product that you don't know, are you going to have a reaction to it? Is it going to, not be up to your standards? But then the next thing that always comes up is it worth the price? Am I paying for quality that I am getting from a product, or does it feel overpriced for what I'm getting? And lastly, the big thing is always like, why should I choose one thing over another brand? Why would I choose a Lay's chip over another brand that maybe I wouldn't know? So I think, there's a few things on that as a brand and as an SME that we can take learnings from the big brands, is that, consistency always works over doing something fancy or gimmicky or once off. So making sure you have the same colors, the same fonts, the same tone, the same photographer style, so that consistently you show up in your brand all the time. I know we sometimes, as owners of our brands or brand custodians, we get brand fatigue because we would have seen a brand 3 or 4 years before it goes live even, and then that brand fatigue sets in. But we have to understand that people out there haven't seen your brand, or they haven't engaged as much in the brand as you have. So inconsistency always screams small, where consistency screams established. And I think that is something to take forward. Another small thing to keep in mind is that, the easiest way to gain perception is always by playing with height. So innovation changes perception. You want to stand. So use height as a variation, stack things, put things on boxes or blocks to create visual harmony. And then the other thing always is, when you're doing this, is kind of talk around, like, making sure that you group things. So don't scatter things, try and keep them together, merchandise stuff in groups so that they create impact. It stands out bold and proud. And then lastly, simplify your message. So too many claims kills clarity. Pick one or two key hero messages that you want. So for example, Lay's new rebrand is they really focused around their potatoes. And that's from a true end-to-end cycle, from the quality of the potato, the farmer, the production, all the way through to the design on the package that you buy on shelf. So they really make it key around the story of their potatoes. Lastly, I just wanted to share some of our work that we've done in the last year.
Ronelle, is there audio on this video?
There is, but I take it it's not working.
Yeah, we can't hear anything.
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
I'll do some sound effects. Hello, hello. Yeah. I tried.
What we realized with some of the brands is that you don't always need a big budget. And some of the points that I've addressed before is that you don't need the big budget. You just need clarity and intention of where you want to move forward to. And that's me. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ronelle. Sweet and short, straight to the point. Thank you so much for your insightful contribution. I'm just going to quickly see. Oh, okay. There isn't a question per se. It was just that the a challenge that we had. Somebody was saying, are they supposed to be hearing something?
Yes,
That's
apologies
fine.
about that.
No, that's all right. We have gremlins this morning, clearly. Thank you so much, Ronelle. We appreciate your contribution. If you're staying on for longer,
Yes,
we will. Okay, fantastic. We'll engage you
perfect.
further just shortly. You
Thanks,
did mention.
everyone.
Thank you so much. And in your presentation, you alluded to the fact that over and above just a brand looking exquisite, looking attractive, looking like it's the one that a customer should be grabbing off of the shelf, you as a customer, you also need a sense of comfort that you're not going to get sick from consuming that product, which is absolutely critical. That's some of the things that we look at as Proudly South African. We are a member-based campaign, and we are we vet products that join us as Proudly SA to ensure that by the time they get to a shelf out
Mm,
there, they are safe to consume. Um, and so we look quickly at four things. The one is local content. We're saying to product makers and owners that the making of your product has to be incurred in South Africa, or you've got to demonstrate to us that in the making of your product, jobs were created locally.
yes.
Secondly, it's one thing to say South Africans must support local, and we make a noise around that as proudly as say, but it's got to be a great quality
Mm,
product. The quality has to be good, no compromising. For in respect of consumers who are going to use their hard-earned money on your product. The
yes.
third and fourth issues are softer issues, but they're just as important. They speak to the third one, speak to environmental standards. In the course of creating your product or doing your work, are you aware of the environment and do you take care of it? And so on and so forth. The fourth one is labor laws. Do you
Mm,
conform to the labor laws of the country? Where you don't necessarily run a chop shop and don't pay employees and don't treat them fairly and
mhm,
all of that. So I think one way or another, our objectives as brands are interlinked.
mm,
Ultimately, we want South Africans to purchase great products that are not going to make them ill, that are safe to consume, that are made locally, hopefully,
mm.
and all of that. Thank you so much, Ronelle, for your contribution to this discussion. Our next speaker is Francois de Villiers, who is going to be looking into the issue of packaging that sells. Thank you so much, Francois.
Cool. It's a great privilege for me. My screen is still got Happy's name on it, but I am happy, so that's good. Uh, so yeah, it's quite a broad topic, and many people these days say that you shouldn't even use the word selling anymore. But we know what it means and that it can be applied in a broader sense. But it's a far bigger topic that I can handle in 20 minutes. And also, all of you guys who are attending this is you all have got different issues with different packaging and different products and different shapes and sizes and different markets. So I'm going to be dealing with it in broad strokes, uh, quite basic, uh, and focus on principles and the fundamentals of your pack designs, product designs that sits within your brand strategy, and how to look at that. Because all of those things, if you funnel it down to the pack at the end, when it sits on the shelf, Those are all issues that you have to deal with, from a brand perspective. And the pack only basically reflects that in a sense. So I'm not going to refer to any visual or audio references. By the way, am my face full screen for you guys? It is. Okay, cool. I just see my face still as a little thing, so at least it doesn't put me off. So, so I would like to just start off by saying, in anything in life, uh, be yourself, be true to yourself, and stand your ground. So, on the topic of packaging that sells, you've actually got to go, as I said, to we can deal with the actual pack, the size of the label, the construct of it, how does the packaging work, paper engineering, the pack shape, the shape of the product, uh, the size of it, where does it sit on the shelf, all of those things. But before that, the brand architecture and the brand strategy is very important. So if you can see, I truly believe that a brand is a person. So let's turn it to ourselves. And if a brand is a person with a unique character and a unique personality, let's look at ourselves. So who are you? When people look at you, they can see you from the outside. If you're true to yourself, you're one of a kind. The way that you've been put together is a whole lot of different elements that's put together. It's how you look, right? So is it it could be that you are uh, a certain age, you're a certain skin color, you come from a certain place, certain sort of background. That's important. That's usually part of the brand story. Uh, and uh, and I think that is important. If you can decide who you are, that is who you are, right? You can change a little bit, right? A little bit different later on by your style, when your style comes into it and the way that you dress. But first of all, it's just what people see. So even a facial recognition camera will be able to pick you up these days if you drive past at high speed in your car. That's what they see. A guy at stops you, traffic cop next to the road, will look at you and say, well, can I have identification? And he will look at you. And in my case, they will look at me and then sort of cover up the lack of hair. And then they say, okay, cool. It's you. So, so if you go, uh, it's, so that is who you are. I think that it can be changed, obviously, in how you dress and how you carry yourself and your style. And I'm not talking about summer fashions or winter fashions. It is who you are, the style that you carry yourself with, that I think is important to work out for a brand, right? To make up this picture that people have of you, right? So as I said, it can come and go, uh, but it's not attached to a season, especially if you come to like back design. Also, you can't change it at any random sort of time. It is something that you have to decide on and stick to. You'll get to my point when I would bring all of these issues together. The next thing is important is how do you sound? So not just the language that you speak, but the tone that you speak, the way that you speak, right? I think is so important because it'll make you stand out. If somebody comes and they can just hear you, or they eavesdrop on you, or they hear your voice, the brand voice, that is what makes it unique. Like your look and like your style, your voice and your sound, how you sound is so important, and it makes you unique, right? So that you can stand out in the clutter. Uh, you can by the way that somebody, even if they press a buzzer on your, on your intercom, and you say, "Who's that?" or you don't recognize the number, they will say, "It's me." So those two little words, "It's me," says, and I say, "Oh, okay, cool, I get it. It's Renelle. How are you doing, Renelle?" I only go on the tone of your voice, right? If you say, "Hello, it's Renelle," the words doesn't actually matter. It's the tone that you say it with. It's the tone that comes across that make me recognize your voice and the uniqueness of your voice, right? Of course, it's important as the next thing to say, well, what is your message? What is the single-minded message that you want to get across? So as a creative guy, for me, all of these things are so important because it just steers me in the end to what I've got to do to take the creative leap. So what is it that you have to tell me? What is your story? And not just the story in a long sense, even if you have to take it down to like one important thing. What do you stand for as a person? You can actually judge that by somebody in a conversation pretty quickly. You, their look will first attract you, the way that they dress, the style, the way that they speak, and the voice and the language that they use. And you'll see later on that even in a title, even in the way that you use typography, right? It's that comes through. It's the type style that you choose that speaks that same language, but we'll get more to that later on. So what do you stand for, right? As a person, what makes you who you are? And then I suppose most important, and everybody's harping on it these days, and yet I see very little reference of it in work, is how do you make people feel, right? Because that is what makes you memorable, all right? How you, do you feel, do you feel embraced? Do I feel understood? Do I feel any one of those things, right? Is how do you make people feel? Is it a serious message? Is it a happy message? What is this brand? The feeling that comes out of this brand. This is where emotion comes into it. So as a person, that is what makes you like nobody else. So it makes you unique. If you don't do that, if any one of those things are out of line, right, and not singing off the same song sheet, and there's no synergy in all of those things that I've mentioned, and there are many more, right, you will come across as false, and you will come across as contrived. And there are many more words that you can use for that. So that's important. All of those things is important to, as it is in a person, to a brand. A brand is exactly like that. All of those points have to line up and and bring the same message of the brand across. Uh, Another thing is that you've got to keep on doing it consistently, right? You can't sing one song on the one side and one on the other. If any one of those little units, little elements are not there, it somehow makes people feel strange. So you see, I've just changed my hairstyle, but all of a sudden I'm something completely different. It's actually pretty weird, right? I love these masks, by the way. I've got a lot of them. They're wonderful at parties. They can change people's characters like immediately. But you see what I'm saying? That if it doesn't all go together and it all feeds together to make up the person or to make up the brand, right? You've actually lost it. You're sitting with somebody that you don't really know who to deal with. I'm just going to do one more. You see, say even this takes me somewhere else. So all I've done is I've actually just changed the color. My brand is like all to do with comfort. So it's in browns and it's in, burnt siennas and, soft beiges. But all of a sudden, I've got a purple forehead, right? So if these things don't adhere to, people cannot connect with you. It's so important when we connect. So we take these things, right, and we say, okay, so that is what is unique about our brand. That is what is unique about a product. And it can make up a product truth. Now, the job that we do and that I've, by the grace of God, have been able to do successfully is to look for those things in a brand, those personal traits in the brand, and I connect it with something that is unique in the suburb, right? So in my consumers, I go and I look for a connection point, right? So you can call that an insight if you want. So you find something that is really unique in this product, right? That everything stands for, and you find somebody that actually aspires to that and connects with that. And when you do that, when you put that consumer truth and the product truth together, to me, it's like a sandwich that you have with peanut butter and jam in the middle. You can't separate them. They hold hands and they walk into the horizon forever. Whether I did it with Vodacom and Yebogogo or with completely different job to do, klipdrift met eis. You find something in what you've got to say, in the style that you want to say it, in the voice, and you connect it to something so that somebody on the end of the line, whether they watch TV or whether they walk past your pack, can associate with and connect with. So that's why these things are so important and why I wanted to go back to that, because it's all to do with packaging. If you package yourself as a person. Sometimes they do these things where they show a famous actress or a model without makeup, and you see it's like a completely different person, right? So all of that stuff is packaging. So it's how you package your brand is going to be how you package your product. It's going to be what that pack design looks like in the end. It's all stripped down versions, summaries, right, of what that brand stands for. And the brand will sit in a brand blueprint where you can see it all on one page, but now you got to go and apply it. So obviously in your brand story that sits in your website, you can tell the whole story beautifully. You got lots of time. You can really intrigue people, and people think, oh, well, that's what storytelling's about, and so on, whatever. Right? Everybody's good storytellers these days, but it's there that you can do it. A 60-second TV commercial can also give you quite a lot. You've got audio, you've got music, you can set the tone, set the atmosphere, get the emotion right, that feeling. How do you make people feel, right? Stripped down from there is probably the next thing I would think is is on social media. Although it is quite quick and the retention time is so short, you've still got to get somebody with that one thing, but you've got less of space to do it because of the time, right? A radio spot, for instance, don't give you audio. So you've even got less time there. So I'm going down the line, stripping it down the line to finally get to like a poster. I love to measure my communication against a poster or a billboard because it's got to have with one line, it's going to have your pack shot, right? It's going to have your tagline that sums up what you're about, right? It's got a tone and a unique look to it that stops me in my tracks. But that's all. The car's gone. You've missed that person or you've got them, right? Poster is similar. Poster you can sometimes stop at, but poster communication is a very stripped down version of the brand blueprint of what the strategy stands for, right? But now when you go to the final step, the product now sits there. So I've had to refer to all of those things because all of that applies to the pack in its most pure way, right? So in there, of course, you've got to deal with the character of the brand and layout and design is first and foremost, but what makes up layout and design, right? Beyond anything, you've got to work out your message hierarchy. I think the biggest problem with pack designs that I've been involved with and a lot that I see and what makes me cry when a client wants to put everything onto the front of the label. Because in a room where everyone shouts, nobody can hear a thing, right? Nothing. You know the old story of the butterflies. You try and catch one, you'll get it with a net. You can't try and catch 10, they all get away. So now the message hierarchy, what is it that you want to stop the person with? What is important there that can maybe be left for the back of the pack? So that's important, the message hierarchy. But then all those things, just like a person's personality and like a brand's personality, starts coming into it. Typography. We've spoken about the tone of the voice, right? And I think that if you have a word that says calm and serene, but I say it like this, calm, serene, it doesn't work, right? I don't know what that looked like, but I'm sure it woke a lot of you up there. But it has to be synergistic, right? It has to come. It comes from the brand, right? And certain type. I can do lectures on typography, how the selection of the type actually says more about the meaning of the line that you write than the line itself, right? In what I've just explained to you. So that is very important that you get that right. And then what is secondary and what is primary, what typefaces support each other, right? What is a strong typeface that can lead, most probably the clearest one that comes from the look and the vibe of and the character of all of your work is the consistent main font. Primary fonts are the fonts that can go down small and still be readable, right? But the uniqueness of that, and I think here, there's so many the reason for classic design, classic typography, I mean, where these guys, old masters, have spent years to perfect the character of a brand. These days, many of the brands, they're schizophrenic in a sense. They're computer fonts that nobody pays a lot of attention, but for some guy who's a Mac jockey somewhere, he can quickly go and, hey, this feels okay, and put it in, all right? But typography says so much, right? More than the words that it spells. Okay, cool. So message detail, work the front and the back. And of course, I think that your tagline is important, that it sits there, whether you call it a slogan or whether you call it a payoff line or whatever. It's the line that sums up, and that can sit with the detail on the pack, and really should be there. And remember that a pack you can't just change like a radio spot. I mean, if we do a radio spot now, I can do the script and I can get the voices and I can get a studio. I can record it tomorrow, right, with sound effect and music, right, and have it at the stations like 3 days, 2 days later. But a pack design and your payoff line, your tagline, those are the things that sit for a long time. It's costly to change those things. So you have to be dead sure. Maybe that's a reason why pack designs in overall are so bad, because people think, hey, they get so anxious that they've got to put everything on there, and in the meantime, it's all things to all men. It just disappears into the sea of sameness. And I think AI, by the way, I embrace it, has the same problem that it will give you, no matter how you prompt it. People say, well, human beings still have to prompt it, but it'll give you the average. It gives you, if I can exaggerate it, it gives you beige. It gives you it gives you a happy medium, right? And it takes away the uniqueness of what a brand and what a product and what a pack design should be. So of course, another thing is your color palette. Like I said earlier, if it's Renell's pack designs are, they're mainly about energy and about refreshment and so on. So those colors sort of go towards the one side. If it's a beautiful pair of shoes, right? It will be something else, right? And a beautiful pair of shoes, by the way, when you open that box and that sort of kite paper inside, the white paper with your brand story written, the whole thing, man, you want to keep that thing. You want to like put it inside your cupboard so you're reminded of this thing every time you put the shoes on, right? So color is important. Type is important. Message hierarchy is important. All of those things. We know that it's love at first sight, right? That is it. You got to stop somebody. But it's not always good to shout, right? They say also when everybody is shouting, whisper. Sometimes it's better to go the other way when you look at your competition and you come across and you invite somebody in with something that is not pushing them out, but embraces them, that invites them in. The whole pack design will do that, right? And it's all working together in synergy and consistently across all of your communication, ending with your pack design. So that's it from me for now. I hope that was meaningful. Thank you.
Absolutely, Francois. It was incredibly meaningful. Thank you so much for taking us through your thought process, your experience, your guide, and your tips for those who are, in the business of producing locally and putting out their product out in the public domain for the attention that they need, but most importantly, to survive in this very not easy market. There's so many options out there. Consumers are spoiled for choice.
Yeah.
What makes your product stand out? Why must I, as a consumer, um, gravitate towards grabbing your product off of a shelf than the next product that is alongside yours? And many of the things you alluded to now in your presentation are absolutely critical. And I'm hoping that the businesses that are online, that are looking for tips that they can use to survive, have embraced, everything else that you shared. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
There is a request on the chat box about sharing the presentation. I'm not too sure if the speakers are prepared to share their presentation.
Mine looks a bit like this.
Okay.
We'll quickly take a screen grab.
Yeah. The problem is I can't read my own writing. So,
Oh, Lord. In your other life, you're a medical doctor. No one can read a script except
I
pharmacists.
can actually write anything on here, because if a client in the presentation sees it and he says something to the contrary, you can't
Yes.
even see what I wrote. I can just swing my story.
You can change your mind anytime.
That's it.
Thank you
Sorry,
so much.
I can't share that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Perfectly understandable. You've presented to us evidence why you can't share. There's no argument. Um, all right. Our next speaker who's ready to engage us is Zood Lade, who is head of marketing at Switch Drink. And she's going to be talking along the lines of creating a strong brand look. Needless to say, Zoo, we all need Switch just to carry on and get energized and all of that. I wish this was a physical forum where we all in a room where we could all sip on Switch. The platform is yours. Welcome, Zoo. I hope we haven't lost Zoo. Team Proudly South African, is Zoo on the line still? She was here earlier on when we were sorting out the webinar behind the scenes before we started. All right, what just to in the interest of time, I will then request that Tato Musigave, founder of Nala Media, steps in, and Tato will be looking at storytelling through your product. Tato, welcome.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Happy. My name is Tato Musikare, founder and CEO of Nala Media. And my work focuses on helping businesses position themselves clearly. So communicate confidently and move from simply just existing and standing out with intention. So thank you so much for having me. I think the previous speakers, Ronelle and Francois, made beautiful scenarios for us to all, think about our products and our brands. So I want to start with something simple but powerful. So people don't buy products, right? They buy into your emotions, they buy solutions, and they buy experiences. And what I mean by that is when someone buys from you, they're not just buying a physical item or service for those who are servicing clients as their means of business. They're buying into how it makes them feel, what problem it solves for them, whether and how it looks really after that. So I know for us as producers, we want to say, okay, I will come up with this thing and people will buy it. But yeah, that's not how it works. So I'm just going to take you through my topic today is sharing on storytelling by your product or service. And in today's competitive market, if your story is unclear, your product becomes a commodity. And what I mean by commodity is something customers see as interchangeable. It feels like there's no real difference between. So Ronel can have a product, I can have a product, Franco can have a product, Zoo can have a product, but behind the story, then you get value for what you are selling. So what is product storytelling? I define product storytelling in these three ways: the why, the how, and the emotional transformation it brings to the user, so to the consumer or our preferred target market. The why. Why is purpose. Why does this product exist? Like, why did you first think of it? What problem, whether you were frustrated while creating it or not, but what problem does it then help or solve to the consumer or your target market? What gap did you see in the market? When your why is clear, customers feel intention. So when your why is unclear, your product feels transactional, meaning it feels like it only exists to make money, not to make impact. So we'll remember that, right? I said why. Now we get into the how. So the how builds credibility. How is it made? Take us through your processing if you can. Francha did mention on social media as well that obviously, because the tool where we market our products and services, take us through the process behind the scenes. That gives customers so they can relate with you and see that this was done by someone actually who is relatable, someone who is like me, so it's not crazy. So take us through your process. How was it sourced? How was it delivered? What makes your approach different to everyone else? And this is important because story without structure feels like hype. It just feels like I'm just trying to hype my product and you should get it for that. But when you explain your process, your thinking, your standards, then you build trust with the client or customer or consumer. And that is what moves someone from being a maybe I'll buy it to I'm definitely buying it because I connect with that. And then we come to the emotional transformation. This is the most important part. Customers don't buy features, they buy who they become. Features are things like 100% organic, the skin is handmade, fast delivery. Those are important, right? I mean, for girls, you're like, oh, my skin, you want that. So that is important, but they're not the emotional driver. The emotional driver is, how does your customer feel before using your product? How do they feel after? So the transformation between the before they buy your product, what they were feeling, and after they buy your product, how do they feel thereafter? Before they probably thought, "Ah, I'm frustrated, my skin is pale." They feel overlooked, insecure, confused. But after they start saying, okay, so before that's what I felt, but now I'm confident, I'm represented, I'm relieved, I'm empowered. So that emotional shift is the real sale. I think that would be the real sale. I'll make a typical example. A global brand like Nike, right? Nike does not sell shoes. So they sell belief. Just do it. So already you're thinking, I'm just going to wear my pair of sneakers and I'm just going to do it, So their messaging is about courage, pushing limits, and overcoming obstacles. When someone wears Nike, they are not just wearing a sneaker, they're aligning with a mindset. The product supports the story drives the loyalty. And then I'll bring it back home locally, local brands, which is Drip Footwear. So Drip isn't just selling sneakers, all right? So it represents township aspiration and ownership and local excellence. So when customers buy Drip, they feel seen. They feel like I'm proudly South African. I want to wear this because it's made here from home locally. And I think that's what they probably thought when they started the brand. So they are buying identity, and that is storytelling. So yeah, so personally on my journey, so I am in services. I give services, but also with services, it has to be intertwined with your story. Why do you want people to believe in you? Why do you want people to believe in your brand? And I'm not saying this to say we must all have soppy stories. No, it can be something that honestly resonates with you and you tell it. So you market your brand by telling the story behind it. So yeah, so now for those, like I said, like myself, who are service-based businesses, we are not selling time, we are selling transformation. Right. So for example, if you offer consulting, coaching, media, or agency strategy services, your customer is not paying for hours, they are paying for clarity, confidence, and results. So, like I said, in my own journey, I realized that offering a service is not enough. When I shifted from delivering output to clearly communicating the transformation my clients experience, then only perception changed. Not always, I'm not speaking to say I've got it all. No, absolutely not. It's still a work in progress. But in service business, you are part of the experience. Your professionalism, your communication, your consistency, this is part of your story. So I'm going to ask everybody who's online. This is just a note that you're going to make for yourselves, right? I'm not going to be here checking if it's correct or incorrect, but I want you to say, I want you to reflect on the sentence. We started this business because. So I want you to fill in the reason why you started the business because. All right. So we'll go again. We started this business because, and then we help so and so that they can, so you fill that in as well, right? So it's we started the business because we help A, B, and C so that they can. And if that sentence feels unclear, that's your opportunity. So that's where you need to start shifting it. If your sentence is unclear when it comes to that, I'd like you to go back to the drawing board. So yeah, clarity builds confidence, confidence builds conversation, and conversation simply means turning interest into sales. At the end of the day, we all want those sales, right? So, where your story must show up, your story must be consistent everywhere. I know Francois spoke as well and Ronel to say it must exist on your packaging, it must exist on your website, it must exist on your Instagram bio, it must exist in your product description, in your customer service tone. If your message is unclear, if your messaging changes everywhere. So on Instagram, you've got this, on LinkedIn, you've got this, on Facebook, you've got this, then customers are able to see the confusion everywhere. And it's easy for a confused customer, not to want to buy or use your services. So consistency builds credibility. Credibility builds trust, and that builds ching ching. That's all we want, right? We all want ching ching. So, in closing, I'm going to say competing on price is a race to the bottom, meaning if the only reason someone chooses you is because you're cheaper, then anyone can always go elsewhere. They can go to your next competitor. And in South Africa, our stories are powerful. We are resilient. We are building. We are innovative. So our story is not a weakness. And like I said before, don't use your story for people to feel pity for you, but use it to your competitive advantage. So yeah, stop shrinking your product into a commodity, stand out, sell with clarity, and let your story do the work for you. You've got beautiful stories, not all soppy, but they will all drive the client that you want to come to you and probably be able to even retain them further. So I'll definitely share my presentation with you guys. I think I didn't want to mess with technology in case it gives me problems, but I'll definitely share the presentation with Happy and everyone at Proudly SA, and they can share it with you guys. Thank you so much.
Don't turn your story into a commodity, or don't turn your product into a commodity. And your
Yeah.
story matters.
Absolutely.
It's not an aha shame situation. Once you make a decision to enter a space where you want to manufacture and produce something, there's intention behind that. There's a proper thought process. It's not an akashem informed kind of situation. So, our businesses and local entrepreneurs need to understand that claiming their space in the economy is the only way forward. And support is absolutely critical. Thank you so much, Tato. Thank you. We appreciate your your contribution. Thank you so much. Ronelle, there's a question for you from, sorry, just give me 1 second while I find it. From Prince. Oh, okay, you did take care of that, I see. Prince wanted to pitch an idea to you, but I see there's been a response on that chat platform already. Great stuff.
Perfect.
Thank you
Yes,
so much.
thanks.
Thank you, Ronelle. Zoo, there we go. We found you, you with your beautiful branded switch cap. Welcome to this session. We look forward to your input to the discussion. And so Zoo is head of marketing. We do great things with Zoo as a head of marketing for Switch. We do great things with you as a member at Proudly South African, and we're looking forward to an amazing year with you. So take it away, telling us about creating a strong brand look.
Thank you, Happy. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me. Happy Friday. I'm sure everybody is very relieved to get to this part of the week. So I'm Zoo. I'm going to be speaking about just like building a strong brand look. So I do want to talk about a CI, corporate identity, but not to go too formal and just like cut it down and get like down to the basics on how we actually start. I joined in quite late. Sorry, I have a few meetings lined up for today. But what I heard from Tato's presentation, I feel like we had the same dreams last night because we're all speaking the same language, which is great. And there's a lot of consistency in our presentations, which is, I mean, awesome. So I'm starting with, I'm sure all of you probably heard this word before, with clarity. So clarity and identity. So the most important and the first question I would always ask is, what do you want to be known for? So obviously when building a brand or a brand look, you want to kind of establish your positioning in the market, why you want any consumer or customer to choose you and what sets you apart from any other competitor. So for example, at Switch, our USP, which is unique selling point, is our flavors, variety of flavors. I see Ronald smiling. So that's what we're known for. I mean, if you know anything about our brand or our business, we have a Malva pudding flavor, which is insane. We have a peppermint tart crisp flavor. So we come up with all the crazy innovating flavors, and that's what we're known for. That is our unique selling point. So that's the question that Tata also told you to write down at the end of her presentation. So once you've kind of established your identity and your clarity and your USP, and you know that is what your kind of niche or your market is, then you know how you have to communicate that to your consumer or your customer. And that's the tone and the messaging you want to be consistent with throughout every channel, right? So the next pillar after clarity and your identity would be being consistent. So you have to be consistent in your logo, in your tagline, in your colors, so people can easily identify you. I mean, you can look at Vodacom. We all know the Vodacom red because they'd never drop the red. It's like in their blood, you know. We see a logo without even realizing what the brand is, and we can easily connect with what it is, but it's only because of consistency. In the infant phase of our brand, Switch, we were so repetitive and consistent with how we looked. We always had an icon with the logo Switch and energy drink for years. And we're at this point now in our product life cycle where we've dropped energy drink because we have other categories in our portfolio, like our vitamin C range, you know. So we can drop the word energy drinks and just be bold and strong because we have the credibility of our brand now and we have the brand equity. So if you just use Switch, everybody automatically knows it's the energy drink, you know? So that's just where the consistency plays. So when you obviously start a business or a brand, you want to make sure you're repetitive, you're consistent with your look and feel so you can be easily recognizable and you can make that instant connection because people see it everywhere on billboards. They're not billboards yet. Above the line marketing can be very expensive. But if you start with your social media channels, you know, your WhatsApp groups, your website, just make sure you have the same CI across all your channels. Then the third pillar I want to talk about is being intentional, which is really important. So when I say being intentional, I mean be intentional about the decisions you make and the partnerships you want to align your brand with. For example, we're an energy drink company, so we do a lot of sports events. We align ourselves with major sports events. We are proudly South Africa, so we try to do national footprints. So we don't just target specific regions because we want to obviously cover the entire South Africa, the entire country. So hydration, it doesn't make sense for us to, I don't know, go to a school, a primary school, and go give energy drinks to kids because, firstly, it's an energy drink and they're not allowed to drink it. So, the strategic partnerships that we try to make is obviously an alignment, and we want to align our brand, our tone, our voice, and our core with. So, yes, if it's sporting events, if it's running events, if it's festivals, where you want to energize the team. If it's, I don't know, if it's, we did a viral campaign before we voted. And it's just like energizing South Africa, like any workers on the street, if you need it every day in your everyday lifestyle, traveling to work, commuting, if you're going to gym, if you need to pick me up at 2 o'clock during the day, also trying to be with you at every life phase. So I always try to tell this brand story that Tata was talking about. When you're growing up, you're usually introduced to an energy drink when you start studying, right? So in high school, you will have your first energy drink and you obviously trying to study and start playing sport, and then you go through university and you're studying, and then you get your job and you become a mother or a father and you need energy because you're looking after your baby, you know. So we are available for every cycle of your life, and that's us telling the story that you can choose us no matter what age you are. And also, because our USP is flavors, if you're not that flamboyant in your palate with a malva pudding, there are some cool fruity flavors, you know, the fruity flavors. There are flavors like dry lemon that is always going to be a favorite to everybody. So there's so many flavors within our product range, and you are going to find something that you would like, even though if the first one you try is not going to be the one that you kind of connect with. But yeah, so my three pillars is obviously clarity is number one, and knowing who you are, what you stand for, what you want to present, and then being consistent in your CI, your logo. Like even on our packaging, we say that we're all about our flavors. If you look at all our packaging, our cans, our websites, our creative on our out of home, on broadcasting, it's funky, it's fresh, it's inviting. You don't want to be too premium and be intimidating towards your customer, because once you look too premium, they kind of, they'll be closed off and not want to, you know, connect with your brand or your product because they feel, oh, it's too expensive, or, you know, they shy away from it. So inviting, colorful, fresh, you know, that's kind of the whole CR that we're looking at, and the consistency of it. Sorry. So that's what we presenting. And then just the third pillar is being intentional about the partnerships you want to align yourself with, and also a culture fit with brands and partners. that your core values align and you have the same intent and purpose going forward. So you guys can automatically just maximize on profits, obviously, because that is the end goal, but also maximize on added value and piggybacking off those partnerships where it doesn't have to include lots of funding, but maybe reach an audience, and two brands coming together is better than one trying to do it on its own, because you collective and just empowering each other and the storytelling of bringing two South African brands together as well. You will get to your end goal faster, but also you can share consumers. So that's my story for today on building a brand look. If you have any questions, you can obviously direct them to me. But thank you so much for having me, and hopefully I'll chat you guys soon again.
Thank you so much, Zoo, for your insightful journey. I'm sure we need a whole half a day for you to tell, the other elements that you did not get a chance to zoom into. So does everybody else actually on this platform. Thank you so much for telling the Switch story. It's great to hear the work that you do behind the scenes over and above what some of us have been exposed to. Great stuff. So we're not doing very well in time. We've exceeded the allocated time completely, but I just want to take this opportunity at this point to thank all of you, not the speakers who said yes and heeded our call as proudly South African to come and share your valuable knowledge. Thank you so much. We don't take it for granted. Our gratitude knows no boundaries. And those of you who are online, who came to hear, to engage, to learn, to take a few tips here and there. Thank you so much for doing right by you and doing right by your business. When we put together these sessions, we do it for your benefit. To expose you to access to markets, to expose you to ways in which you could potentially run your business, because we care. You are seen and you are heard, and we care, and that's why we put these sessions together. Thank you so much. If you would like to engage any of the speakers, please do write to Monique, who's the my colleague that invited you to the session, and they will link you up with whoever it is that you may want to engage further with. Thank you so much. And I'm hoping the speakers, I'm not throwing you under the bus by saying you are available to talk to some of the people who are online. We'll do it in moderation. We won't bombard you with 50,000 emails, but we'll try and manage it properly. Thank you so much, everybody. The session is closed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.